Okay, should have some sound now. I don't want that either. Okay, well, the mic isn't working today again. Something's wrong with the connection with the wire. But yeah, so we're talking about earnings. Got 3 trades this week: Snapchat, Meta, and Microsoft that I'm looking to play. All 3 of them, I expect some downside. Meta, I think, will stay under 300. In Microsoft, that one's kind of hard to say. I think that one might have the most downside potential, but it has already pulled back after their AI news, sending them up to 367. But I think this one has the greatest potential for downside. The implied volatility for all 3 of the names is up there. I mean, you're looking at, let's see, 35 implied volatility. Last time it was about 33-ish. The one before that, pretty similar to what we're seeing now. So we are seeing implied volatility going up for all 3 of these names, which means that the options are going to be more expensive going into the earnings, and the best way to trade those now that implied volatility has gone up would be with spreads. I thought the market was closed because I wasn't here. Yeah, just a little bit late. Just a wee late. Okay. So it looks like Google's doing pretty well today, up 1.7%, still trading in this range that it's been in and kind of going back and forth between 118 or so and 127. Let's check the options chain for these names, see if there's any pivots. Lots of call options to maybe squeeze it up to 125 by the end of the week. Actually, a similar amount of put options. Interesting enough, I wouldn't have expected that, but maybe some people positioning ahead of earnings. I think Google's going to be... Oh, they are reporting this week. They're actually reporting tomorrow in the after-hour session. So you're seeing about equal positioning for calls and puts on Google, at least. Apple's going to be reporting in 2 weeks. Trading at 195 as of right now. The 200 level is very popular for calls at 11,000. There's actually a lot of 195 puts and even more 190 puts. 28,000 in volume, or 28,000 in open interest for this week. So there's actually more people that are positioned for downside on Apple ahead of their earnings report. And this is the week before their earnings report. So it's kind of strange that they're targeting the 190 strike. But there's a lot of volume, a lot of open interest going into these. Decent amount of calls, about 50% more calls for the 200 strike. But I think Apple could probably come down before earnings just based on the other names coming down. Microsoft, what was it? Meta. Google's reporting tomorrow. So if those names are coming down, it's going to have some sympathy with Apple. But let's pull up this 190 put for Apple. I bought and sold this on Friday, and I think I'm going to try again. Hopefully selling out of this within the next couple of days. I don't want to hold it close to expiration on Thursday or Friday. It's already pulling back off of 195. This is where I would cut losses above 195 or 196.50. And I'm actually going to set the expiration date for the week after, just to give me that extra time for the trade in case I do have to hold into Thursday or Friday. So we go with the week after. Price goes up obviously to $230. And on Friday, I ended up buying this at $2.95, selling it at about $3.30. So now we're getting in again here at about $2.30 a piece, $100 cheaper than the original, or sorry, $60 cheaper than the original entry. And it's getting very close to that 195 mark that I'm looking for the entry at. But we'll get two of them. Hoping at 235. Let's see. There we go. We're going for 240 now. 235 is my entry. How do I decide which tech stocks? So the way that I go about deciding is based on implied volatility. Right now I'm focused on just buying regular calls or regular puts depending on which direction I'm thinking. And Apple of all names actually has the lowest implied volatility relative to past earnings reports for the past year. So I think that Apple presents the greatest opportunity in terms of raising the contract value. Going into this earnings week, you're going to see a lot of big tech stocks reporting. That's going to increase the implied volatility of these names are making big moves. So I think that Apple probably could give us the best shot. And let's see. For earnings, I'm thinking we could head down to about 187, maybe down to 184, about $10, which is about 10% or so. And the expected move for the earnings report is $9 as of right now. Not getting the entry that I want on at 235 for this trade. Really don't want to have to pay extra, but might have to sacrifice an extra $10. All right, we'll replace the trade for 240. Still not getting filled for that price. Looks like Netflix and Tesla are down again today. 0.95 and 0.8%. Falling through that support level for Apple at 193.80. And these contracts are going for 245 instead of the 240 price that we wanted to enter at. So don't think we'll be able to take that opportunity today. We could maybe take the Microsoft trade, but my worry on that, implied volatility is pretty high again. Going back a couple quarters, it's about the same as to where it was before, and that wasn't a big move that we got out of the earnings report. Pretty flat week. So I don't expect Microsoft to have a huge move. I would rather play that with spreads. Let's check Meta. Coming down from 295 to 292, so a decent drop. Everything kind of pulling back this morning, even after the pre-market rally. It's looking like, yeah, SPY ended up pivoting down at 455 almost. QQQ ended up coming down at 377.5 down to 375. Maybe we could take a trade on Tesla or Netflix, but they've already kind of had their move. Meta already had its move. Amazon, yeah, everything is already moving really big to the downside. So maybe we could take the opposite trade to the upside on any pivots. Let's see. For a day trade, 120 level could be a pivot for Google, 3,800 to 1,900 in open interest, so it halves. And then the volume ends up dropping not quite as much, so it might not be the best opportunity. Apple would pivot at about 190 if it gets down there, but that's still $3 away. Pretty far. Microsoft at the 340 level could be a good entry. And that one's actually a lot closer. Nvidia's trading at 440, down pretty heavy. Let's see. This one's actually probably the nearest pivot. 440 to 437.5 has a steep drop in open interest and volume. So let's try opening a call option for this week's expiration. They're all pretty expensive. You gotta go all the way up to 460 to get these for about 400. It's pretty deep out of the money. We wouldn't be expecting to pay that much, but let's see, these drop from 675, basically 700 to 400. So we might be able to take profits. If we go back to like 444, 446, which would put these maybe at like 480 to 550. Already jumping to 470 a piece. People are already jumping into this trade. Okay. Yeah, too late for that. Entry. Already reversed that first 5-minute candle. Hopefully we can get a reversal on Apple here too, so we can try to re-enter that 190 put. Tesla's down at 256, right in the middle of this range. We could set up a trade here maybe. Let's see, open interest and volume both dropped pretty heavily at 255 to 252.5, but picked back up at the 250, so that's a little bit concerning. But if we set our stop loss at the bottom of this, should limit our losses pretty nicely. Let's go with the 265 call right now. Is going for just 300. We'll replace the Nvidia trade with this one. Let's see, and that's about $2 worth of downside. I feel like they've already had their earnings report, so they should have already experienced most of the move to the downside, but let's see. Yeah, they're going for 300. Delta on it is 30, so we could lose 60 if we're wrong. And I would want to take profits probably at 259 the morning high, 260 if we're lucky. So about $3 of upside, $4 of upside there. Floating around for 295 to 300 right now. All right, I'll try my entry at 295. Might have come in a little bit too short there. Okay. Replace the entry for 300, so stop loss will be 240. Nvidia's going back in the green here. So yeah, nice little recovery on Nvidia off of that 440 mark. This Tesla contract's already going for 315. So can't get an entry there. Still trading with Robinhood. I have to switch my TD over to a cash account. All right. Well, looks like all of our entries this morning have failed us. That sucks. Meta could be a decent one. Let's see if we can find any support levels at the 290 level. This one's going into earnings, so might be a little bit of earnings anxiety going on. And I'm sure these contracts are way jacked up before earnings this week. Let's see. Yeah, you're having to go super deep out the money to the 330 strike price in order to get these for 400. The 325 is going for 400, which is so far out. Let's see what they've been going for this morning. Topped out at 540, bottomed out so far at 400, and there's about $3 more downside. Let's check the delta on them. Delta of 21, so you lose 60. If it goes back to the highs, you make about 150. If it's back to the morning highs at 296. Apple's not getting the recovery we need to open a put there. But we are seeing Nvidia pulling back to the red slightly, break even. Went all the way up to 444, about half of this 5-minute candle before reversing. Any play on Hood? Not thinking about it. Let's see. Hood is gonna have their earnings on 8/2, so that's next week. I'm thinking very elevated, trading at 52-week highs. Let's see where the all-time highs lie. All-time highs all the way at 85. Jesus Christ. I'm really surprised that this isn't a profitable company. But let's see. Implied volatility is kind of up there going into earnings. About as high as it was a couple quarters ago and the quarter before that. So this one I would play with spreads too, similar to how I would play Snapchat. Probably with, I would say with this one you could trade it with put debit spreads. Snapchat I would want to do call credit spreads. And I think you might fill this gap down after earnings to 11:30. Am I still in the Apple trade? I got out of that one on Friday, the same day that I opened it, just because we had that huge drop right before the close. Tried to open another one this morning, but could not nail my entry. All right. Also, if anybody has CSV files of their trade history with Interactive Brokers, E-Trade, or Charles Schwab, if y'all could DM me on Discord. I'm working on building an app, and I need those 3 brokers because those are the brokers that I don't have. And I will pay you for the CSV. Obviously, don't put any sensitive information in them because they'll be passed on to my developer. But yeah, if anybody has those 3 brokers, again, E-Trade, Interactive, or with Charles Schwab, if you could send me a CSV of your trade history, I will pay you back. Let's see, Tesla, the 265 has gone for 345 now. Sucks that we missed that entry at 3. Let's check. Apple's not recovering back to 194, so we can't open that one. I wonder what the implied volatility for Google is. It's about the same it was last quarter. Quarter before that it was a lot higher. Quarter before that higher. So compared to the last few earnings report, Google actually has a low implied volatility, but it's still jacked up to 36. What's the expected move for this week? Expected move is $7, $7.50 in either direction, so about 7-8%. I think Google has kind of been a slept on AI play. So I feel like they could actually have some run up after the earnings report. But I don't know about more than 7-8%. I feel like that might be a little bit too much to ask. Let's see, 122, 107, that would put it at 130 and above. Let's check the options chain. For the volume and open interest at the 130 strike price. I mean, there's only 7,400, so it's not a ton of options that people are buying ahead of their earnings report. Usually you see these in the tens of thousands, especially for an earnings. But we're not really seeing that many people buying these. They're trading at 115, so your break even is 131 and change. Or you could go with the 129 strike price for just $20 more. This one's already up 1.25% today. The best performer of the big tech names. I think I would want to see it closer to 120 before I open that, but let's see, the puts at 120. There's 3,800 open interest, 3,300, 3,400 for the calls, and there's not much open interest below that besides the 115s. 3,500 open interest, 2,500 open interest for the 105s, and basically nothing at 100. So people aren't expecting a huge drop on Google. There's more people expecting a moderate gain for Google this week. You know what? I think I'll go with a 125 call. We'll be a little bit more conservative. It's still out of the money, obviously. But say we do manage all the way up to 130 and get 8-10%, that would double these contracts from 235 to 500. I would like to plot some levels before we open it though. Let's go back to the hourly chart. So we've been just kind of trading back and forth for the most part. Resistance seems pretty thin around here. Let's see, starting around 121.60, 121 or so. Okay. And let's see where we have some support levels. A couple of bounces at 119. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 of them at 119. So this could be our range right here, 121 to 119. $119.25. And we'll extend that one to the right a little bit further. So right now, still trading about 50 cents above where I would like it. Contracts are going for 235. And they're reporting tomorrow in the after hours. So that gives us a lot of time for the trade to kind of digest, which I like. I like early earnings companies a little bit better. All right, 230. I think we'll have to pay 240 on them. And I'll just buy one of these. All right, there we go. 125 call, 728 for 240. earlier this morning, these were going for 300, so I probably want to cut losses at like 120 if we get there today. If we want to make it a day trade, 120 would be my level to the downside. Probably would want to see similar upside to 124 and above. Maybe we can move this to the next level up, 124.50. All right. So that's about $3.50 of upside, or $2.50 of upside, $2 downside for today. And then if I don't take profits or cut losses today, we will hold that into expiration and risk the 240 to hopefully get 500 out of it if it goes all the way up to 130. This is the one stock that I'm bullish on, big tech stock that I'm bullish on for earnings. Tesla's taken off. Yeah, that 400 or that 265 calls all the way up at 430. So that would have been a really well-timed entry at 300, but could not get into that quick enough. Hopefully this means that Apple goes up though. I would like to see that. We're seeing a recovery for the Qs. Yeah, QQQ finding a bottom at 374.34, back up to 376. And for Apple, I want to try to re-enter that put. If we go back to 195 would be the ideal entry price, but that means that we have to go past our morning highs. So if we don't have the upside momentum today, we might have to lower this to maybe 194.50. Google's still the best performer today, 1.5%. That calls up about $13, like 5% or so. And it does seem to have formed a double bottom right here at 121.40. So probably keep an eye on that level today too. Below 121.40. The 121 mark, and then we would cut losses at 120 for this call. Nvidia's popping off too with Tesla. Up at 445 right now. Yeah, so those two call options would have been a really nice entry. Still got the Google call, but since this one's already up 1.7, 1.8% right now, I don't know if it has the same opportunity. Nice pop on Google still though. 122.5. What platform am I using? This one is Thinkorswim for the charts. Currently trading with Robinhood, but yeah, it's a lot easier to make trades with Thinkorswim rather than with Robinhood. It's a lot quicker on the execution. Like we could have got in with the buy to the ask, sell the bid for that Tesla and that Microsoft or that Nvidia trade would have been nice, but Robinhood with that swipe feature takes an extra couple of seconds, so it can really slow you down. Alright, let's see if Google can break our morning high at 123.33, I think. Let's double check. I think it's 123.30. Still about 70 cents off. $35. Is there a reason why I don't trade AMD? I'd rather trade Nvidia. I think that Nvidia has more options that are traded on it, especially after their last earnings report. So I feel like AMD just doesn't have the kind of volatility that Nvidia does. So I would prefer, a stock that moves a little bit quicker, especially, since it's a $400 stock versus a $100 stock. You get more delta out of that, more change from, a stock going up 1%. It's $4 for Nvidia and only $1 for AMD. So I'd rather trade Nvidia for between those two names, just for the volatility and the higher returns per 1%. Which means you could trade more, I guess, of the AMD options, but still a bigger fan of trading Nvidia but AMD is somewhat cheap at 110 compared to Nvidia trading at what, 450. Relative strength is weak at 43, where Nvidia's at 57. So there could actually be a little bit more upside on AMD. Let's see when their next earnings is. 2 weeks away, 8/1, first of the month for August. Ivy is about the same as it was last quarter. And that was a pretty volatile quarter. That ended up sending it down 88 down to 83, a $5 move. So that was probably 6%. Last earnings, implied volatility was a lot higher. And this went from 72 to 84. So a good like 13, 14%. The earnings before that, let's see, implied volatility was 70. So yeah, implied volatility is about the same it was last quarter, where we had that drawdown of 8%. The expected move for their earnings between now and August 4th, 2 weeks away, $10 in either direction, or about 10%. There is some support down here. Looking at this gap that it created with Nvidia, and it looks to have filled in the gap. The high on this at 108.91. Yeah, definitely filled in that gap. So this one we might actually be able to take to the upside for an earnings trade in a couple weeks. Let's see, August 4th, if we go, they're actually kind of expensive. For the 115s, we're going for 330. If you go all the way up to 120, you're still paying 200 for that. For a 10% move. That's actually pretty expensive, I would say. It should have a nice support at 108, but getting 10% upside will be pretty tricky, I think. Timmy. Welcome, Timmy. All right, Google still headed higher, 2%, 2.1% today. Contracts are up, nice little $35, or about 15% for right now. Still hanging on. But ideally, I would like for this to be above 124.50 before I take profit, which is still a ways away, $1.50 away. So still got time to wait on this trade if we want to take profits before earnings. Delta on this should be rising, which is good. It's at 43 right now. 43 times 1.5 would be 65 worth of delta. It's going for 275 roughly right now, which would put these at about 340 a piece when we bought them for 240. Getting close to the morning highs, but not quite there. Still about 30 cents off, 40 cents off. Apple's managing back up a little bit here, but still not where I want it for a put. Again, I would like to see probably 194.50 before I re-enter that trade. They are going for 240 a piece for next week's 190 puts. The lowest they went this morning was 215, so we could save about $30 waiting on this. All right, there goes Google at 123. Should have maybe got two of these, one for earnings and one for a day trade. But we're too far from this level for that one to make sense. Damn, Nvidia's all the way back to 447. Tesla's just 262. So yeah, you're getting a good rally for everything but Amazon, still trading at 130. When is their earnings going to be? 2 weeks out, 8.3. Implied volatility is the lowest that we've seen for earnings, but still elevated. We could take a short position as a day trade for it. Let's see. And that's not the right. There we go. Extend this one more day. Okay, trading at 129.75. Tops at 130. It's about 20 cents of upside, 70 cents downside. If we're able to enter it quick enough. Amazon. Check on the 130 call. There's steep drop in open interest and volume, which we like. I would probably want to go at the money. Currently going for 240, 245. They went all the way up to 260 in the last few minutes. Already pulling back. So we'll give it some time on Amazon. All right. 75. These are going for 238, 240. Looks like Google is pulling back from 123 right now. 122.64. Contracts are still going for 260. We got them at 240. Apple still got some upside to it, not seeing the same pullback. But running into resistance right now at 193.80. Looks like Microsoft kind of forming the same thing as Google did with that morning top. Meta could be giving us a good entry here, but I don't like how expensive their options are for earnings week. And Amazon dropped down to the bottom of the range, so can't make that one. That would have been a perfect trade too. Alright, well, Netflix still hanging down here at 420 almost. 424, down 0.7. Meta's still hanging down. Microsoft finding its peak again at about 346, about 50 cents off of the previous high before this pullback. Let's see, NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, Google, and Microsoft all kind of forming the same, close to a double top, but not quite. Whereas Apple and Tesla, they still have some positive momentum to them. Oh, I never canceled that order for the 265 Tesla call. Didn't get filled at 300, but let's see. Tesla at 260 now, 261. Coming off a 262.5. Let's see if that was I think that was a previous resistance from the other day. If I'm remembering right, between 262 and 264. I think it traded for a while. I'm not really seeing anything at 262 actually. Maybe this on the 15-minute chart at 262, 50 to 75, but I wouldn't consider that strong. Tesla isn't making any sense. Am I drinking Jack and Coke? No. Coffee. Yeah, Tesla's all over the place as usual. Not too surprising there. It is at 260, so decent drop from 300. Alright, Google pulling back pretty heavy here. Looking at the 15-minute chart. Yeah. Peaking at about 123 before the pullback. 123 and some change. Hourly chart still looks bullish. 65 on the RSI. Again, that double bottom at about 121.50. But that pullback at 123 was pretty strong. Pretty quick, I would say. Probably could be support here at 122. But still needs to go up about $1 from that support to get to the new highs. Let's check the previous day. We ended up breaking down at about 123 right here pretty quickly. So yeah, that's probably why you're seeing 123 as a resistance right now. And then we want to see this above 123.50 if we want to break that range from the other day. Which would put us at new morning highs. But yeah, I don't know if we have any more opportunities for the market. Looks like Apple's not seeing the upside that I need for the put. Nvidia and Tesla already had their upside for the call options that we wanted. Microsoft's kind of just doing what Google is doing. Let's see if we can get maybe a put for cheap. The 330 put's going for 445. So your break even's about 325, about $20 down. For a $350 stock, that's about 6%. Now with names like Microsoft, Apple, you know, getting 8-10% is a lot harder since they're $2 trillion names. So betting on major downside for Microsoft is pretty hard. If we're more conservative, say maybe 15 over 350 would be a 4% drop. Could be reasonable. So 345 is trading at right now. So maybe we could expect it at 330. Which would mean that we need to buy the 335 put for 600. That's a pretty steep price. 340 put's going for 800, putting our break even at 332. Not a lot of volume going into these either, which not exactly ideal for liquidity and being able to get out of these trades. There's only 700 open interest, 300 in volume. There's really no puts. This is next week's expiration. That makes more sense. Okay. So we expect a $15 drop. Again, that's about 4%, 4.3. Which means that we could buy the 335 puts, 3,300 open interest, 750 in volume. The 340 puts, the most popular, going for 700. That's a little bit too high for my taste to risk on an earnings play. Even 500 for the 335 call, I feel like is too much. So I don't think we can make this one. Meta's too expensive. Snapchat could be a good one for tomorrow too. This one, implied volatility is the highest of the three names. Yeah, way up there at 119. Let's see if we can still maybe get them cheap though. Let's see, the 1250 strike is going for 140, putting a break even at 11 almost. So 160 over a $12 stock would be 13%. That could play out. I've seen this one move like 20% on earnings reports, so yeah. I think I'll just get one put at the $12 strike price. Not going to go heavy on it just because the implied volatility is way jacked up. Not my preference ahead of an earnings, but I'll give it a shot. Going for 111 right now, 110. All right, got that entry. Just one of these bad boys. And if we want to close out before earnings, let's see if there's any support levels, resistance levels. Had a really big squeeze on this day on July 11th from 12 to 13, kind of out of the blue. 1270 would be a resistance right now. And before that, there's really nothing to look forward to. Unless we're able to manage down before earnings to, let's see, these levels at 1230. Say if there's any selling right before earnings report, that could get us in a good position here. 1230 to 12. All right. So I'd want to take profits before earnings if it's below 12. I don't think it'll get there, but maybe. And then hold into earnings if we're not below 12. What are my thoughts on Twitter changing its name to X? Is Elon Musk actually following through with that and changing the name of it? I saw something on this morning. He was about to put out the logo for it. I don't know. I don't think that he should try to rebrand it, but I know he wants to make it the everything app, which I think that it has the potential to be, possibly. I think they really need to work on like live streaming, definitely. Like get on the level of like Twitch, and then for video, get on the level of like YouTube. I feel like their search, their SEO, not search SEO, but like their search functionality just isn't as good as something like YouTube is. But I do have a little bit of bias being a YouTuber. All right, here we go with Google at 123 again almost. But yeah, that's all the trades that I got for today. Got the Snapchat put, got the Google call, both for earnings this week. Hoping I can take profit today, but if not, gonna hold those into earnings, and then if we can manage to take profits today or cut losses, one of the two, either could happen. I would like to see it above 124.50 for Google. For Snapchat, I want to see it below 12 before taking profits there. So that's all I got for y'all today, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow at the same time, 9:30. And again, if anybody has Interactive Brokers, Charles Schwab, or E-Trade, please send me a DM over on my Discord. Link in the pinned comment here, and trying to get trade history, CSV files, so we can get my app going. So willing to pay for that, and I will catch y'all tomorrow. See you, everybody.